right, we'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. If we could all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, roll call, please.
Mrs. Bloom. Here. Mrs. Spiritu. Here. Ms. Laird.
Here.
Ms. Lewis.
Here.
Mr. Price.
Here. Can I get a motion to approve the minutes from our regular meeting that was February 13th, 2023, and our special meeting held on February 23rd, 2023, please?
So moved.
Motion by Ms. Laird. Could I have a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Lewis. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Ms. Laird.
Yes.
Ms. Lewis.
Yes.
Mrs. Bloom.
Yes.
Mrs. Spiritu.
Yes.
Mr. Price.
Yes, motion's approved. Next up, legislative report.
None at this time.
Okay. No walk-on items. Going into the community, we can go right into our work session. That's all right?
Absolutely. Ready for us?
Yes.
All right. Well, one I've been looking forward to is the Mr. Anway show. We've had so many good speakers, and every time we leave with just more information, I think good for information for our community. I think this is one that the community really does want to hear, kind of what's going on, what's next, what's latest, what's still pending. So, Mr. Anway, thank you for preparing this. I know it's one of your best things, right? I love it. So if you would, sir, if you kind of give us a shot, and I'm going to jump in every now and then too, if you don't mind. And Denise, feel free. We'll get through this. Thank you, Tom.
Thank you very much, Mr. Detweiler. Good evening, members of the board, Ms. Parkhurst, Mrs. Hurt. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to bring you kind of up to date, a brief synopsis of what's been going on. I've actually gone back probably about the last 2 to 3 years, back to things that have happened in the district and things that you probably may not be as noteworthy in the community, such as starting off with our Fremont Middle School. Fremont Middle School is now 10 years old, believe it or not. Wow. This is the 10th anniversary of Fremont Middle School. And I just wanted to bring you up to date on some things that were done. These 3 things actually were done over the past summer and into this school year. First thing being the HVAC controls have all been updated. Believe it or not, when the original HVAC system was put in, the network that's involved, the backbone of the network, was just simple cabling. Now with all of the updates in the HVAC world, all new Cat 6 wiring was installed to control all of the different operators throughout the district or throughout the building, and that took place by Warner Mechanical right here in Fremont, did that work for us, and was completed about 3 months ago. What that allows is everything to communicate to each other. We were starting to have a lot of difficulties with communication problems from our main controllers into unit ventilators, main boilers, things of that nature. So that took place. We replaced the keying system. That took place over Christmas break. One of the things I really strive for in the district is continuity and things to be everything the same. Makes our maintenance issues a lot easier, makes it easier for us to keep parts in stock, and quite honestly, this is a security issue. We now have one consecutive and consistent keying system. We have different layers of eligible keys to give out to administrators, all the way down to people that may only enter the buildings once a week, but it only allows certain levels of access. We were scattered out across the district, so when the new buildings were built, we put that system into place, and now we've got the middle school into that system as well. So that was a very nice update. The security system, which is the cameras and the access control system. When I say cameras, obviously those are our cameras throughout the building. Those have been now integrated in with the rest of our camera systems throughout the district. So we have one system. You can monitor everything at any building. It allows our police force to do the same thing. It allows any administrator to be able to get in to view different buildings at the same time, and that is a great feature. I know our police department was very excited, and sheriff's department was very excited over that as well. Access control. Access control is a fancy word that we use for the fob system. Probably one of the nicest features that the new buildings created for us was another level of accessibility through fobbing. So you don't realize the number of lay coaches we have, the number of people we have, Boy Scout leaders, Saturday morning basketball practices. Now what we can do is issue fobs based on the times that we want them in the building. So that's the only time they can get into the building. They can fob in like our elementary basketball leagues. They're allowed to fob in, or they can fob in from, I believe, like 9 a.m. until noon. And that's the only time they can get in the building. So with a key, you can get in any time, but with a fob, you can't. So we don't issue many keys any longer. Most of everything is now done through fobs. I did want to point out the funding mechanisms for these updates. We used 3 different funding mechanisms. The 034 account is what we call the first funding account. That is the funds that were put into place through the half-mil levy, or half-mil, not levy. It was part of the new building at the middle school. So when the middle school was passed for construction, also a $500,000 was included in that for nothing more than maintenance purposes throughout the district, and we still are working off of that. The 03 account is the permanent improvement funds. Those funds can only be used for anything that has a life expectancy of 5 years or more. So obviously all of these things we hope have life expectancies, or are intended to have life expectancies of 5 years or more. Then the last thing I wanted to bring up was the state safety grant. We originally, we originally applied for the state safety grant, and we were awarded for every building $100,000. And boy, Mr. Detweiler was so proud of all of us for doing
Board
this.
too. We were ready, weren't we?
And
Go for it.
I believe,
Christmas.
I'm not sure if we ever actually received the money or not, and had to, yes, we did. We did receive the money, and then we found out that we weren't eligible to receive it because our buildings were new. And so they took back all of the money, made us resubmit for the middle school, which was eligible because of the age being 10 years. We resubmitted. At first, we received $20,000 for safety upgrades. We put into place a plan to purchase new radios for transportation, bus radios, as well as handheld walkie-talkies for the entire district. So that expense was going to be around $100,000. But we originally applied for the full $100,000. They gave us $20,000. Then we received word about a week to 2 weeks ago, they supplied the other $80,000. So we were fully funded on the safety grant side of this. So we received all the available funds. Originally, we received more than we were supposed to, so we were real happy, but we had to give that back. That last thing at the middle school, after 10 years, student furniture has been updated. You probably have noticed the old chairs that you used to sit on are gone. Their life expectancy was over. They were starting to get bent, and we put in maybe something not quite as flashy, but a lot more durable than what was originally installed. So those were the things that we've done. Forthcoming maintenance expenses, I just put these on just to give you an idea of what we're looking at and planning for in the future. HVAC systems, that would be the chiller. That's the actual mechanical part of it. It's not the controllers telling things what to do. It's the actual air conditioning chiller. Life expectancy of that's around 20 years. So we have 10 more years to put in a budget to replace that. The roof is a 25 to 30 year roof. 10 years into it. So, you just kind of start budgeting ahead, putting money aside to take care of these issues. And then technology. As all of you know, 10 years on technology is a lifetime. And unfortunately, we're at a point where a lot of our technology, especially the interactive boards, need to be replaced. And I know Mrs. Hurton, Mr. Detweiler, and Mrs. Parkhurst and myself have had many conversations about trying to work that into the budget to make that happen. So those are the things we're looking at Fremont Middle School. The construction project, it's about over. Obviously, it was very, very positive. Always positive when you can finish under budget and ahead of schedule, or at least on schedule. We were able to accomplish both of those through the hard work of local contractors, our construction management company, the OFCC, and basically everybody involved, including the Board of Education, in making timely decisions and being able to move things along. We are at a point where the connector has always been a hot subject, connecting the natatorium to the new school. Unfortunately, we can't do that until we are substantially financially complete. We are not at that point yet. We hope within a year we would be at that point. We're very close on the elementary buildings, but the project as a whole is not there. So we're working diligently to get everything closed up, wrapped up financially, know exactly where we're at financially, and then look at doing this connector to get everything connected together. Obviously, we have put a temporary connector in place, but we do have plans to get that connector done. The closeout, as I spoke of, that's taking place currently, but it's a long process. Ms. Parkhurst is dealing with that on about a daily basis, trying to wrap things up, close purchase orders, make sure all of the Gilbane is getting paid for all of their contractors to pay, and we're working on that. And as I said, we hope in the next year that will be financially complete. We can move forward with the connector. 12-month and 5-year warranty issues. Believe it or not, almost all of our systems now are out of the warranty on them. However, there are some manufacturer warranties, which are 5-year warranties, that are still in place, such as today. We had a light switch, and just a simple light switch in our elementary school went bad, and I looked it up. It's $143, but it has a 5-year warranty. So we're able to get that to the contractor. They replace those. So those 5-year warranties are still in place. I try to do a decent job of making sure anything that's getting repaired is not under warranty that we're paying for. When we do pay for stuff, again, we use the 034 and the 003 accounts for the most part. Once in a while, we have a general fund, but not very often. Outstanding issues. I would say we have very few outstanding issues, thank goodness. A couple minor roof leaks still we're tracing down at the high school. I'm sure tomorrow Mosier Construction will have an employee over checking on the latest 2 that are there. Everything else is good to go, but we've had 2 that have really been driving them crazy. We're not sure if they're actually roofing leaks or if they're leaks in the masonry that are funneling through somehow. So flashing is what it's known as. So they're working on that. Other than that, not many issues. We've had a very, very, very successful construction project, one that many people can be proud of, and the district and the town and the city and everyone can be proud of, and it's gone really well. So that's my update on the construction project. I'll move into the July 1st, 2023 insurance claim. If all of you remember, July 1st, we had the winds of North Street came through, and it was very limited damage done in Fremont, except for North Street. It seemed like the Elderly Care Center and Fremont Ross athletic facilities took the brunt of it, it seemed like.
Fairgrounds took a hit too.
In the fairgrounds, yes, in the fairgrounds, you're right.
Right down the street.
Just came right down the street. We had many things that were damaged. I've listed all of those, and I'll run through them very quickly. We were able to settle the claim with the insurance company. It was a $160,000 claim for the things that are listed: the tennis building, baseball fencing, dugout roofs, soccer restroom facility roof, the baseball softball press box roof. Actually took a 2x8 from the dugout of the girls softball and threw it directly into and through the roof. So things like that you see on television almost, and witness that, and a little bit of damage on the tennis complex fencing. This is the tennis building. You can see a little bit right here where the, whoops, big fingers. You can see there where it's blown off. That's the west, and this is the north, and it was a northwesterly wind, so it peeled that off and then did some damage interior-wise because of the moisture. There was tennis building damage, baseball complex, softball complex. I spoke of the building, this building. This is where it picked this dugout roof off and threw it through that roof. They actually found the rest of this dugout roof back here is where they found it. So it did a lot of damage on the dugout roof, so they've been replaced. Again, it was actually this roof, and they've replaced both roofs. We've replaced both roofs. That work has been completed. That's the baseball, softball press box. This was thrown through there. And the tennis complex fencing on this end of which would be the west end. This is the building again where the roof was blown up off. On the west end, this fencing was blown over, and there had a practice board on that also was blown loose. So almost everything has been completed now. The only thing that's not been completed is the fence work. Fremont Fencing will be doing that. I was actually have discussed it with them, and we're doing a couple other little projects with them, and they plan on doing that. It will all be done by the time baseball and softball season's underway. The roofs and other things were all repaired in the last 2 weeks, so we're up to date on those. Wanted to talk a little bit about the transportation center, our new transportation center. It was completed in 2021. It was the old Bobby's bus service right across from the Cookie Lady. So I'm sure Mr. Price has watched things that have occurred across the street. Just to give you a little bit of background, it's a 9,000 square foot facility. It has 2 outbuildings. We've updated the access control again, so our drivers have fobs so they can come and go out of their driver's lounge as well as the office, but we can limit their access into the office areas. We have programmable LED lighting. That's to help with the neighborhood. Our lights they dim automatically between the hours of 10 p.m. and 5 a.m. and then they get brighter, gradually get brighter as the morning goes on, so we don't bother the neighborhood as much. I've not had any problems with any of the neighbors as far as complaining about noise. We're very conscious of the neighbors and trying to do all the right things. Enhanced driver's lounge, one of the outbuildings at the transportation center, the farthest back building, the farthest south building, was an old garage. Our maintenance crew actually went in, completely refurbished it, air conditioned, heating, and now that's the driver's lounge. So they are very close to their buses. They can park out in front of it and access it. It keeps them out of the mechanics area, and it has worked out very well, and very little costs involved with doing it, and the drivers were super happy about that as well. And the last thing I would point out is the propane fueling station. Currently, we have 8 propane buses, so we had to install a fueling station, and we installed the propane fueling station out there about 3 years ago, and propane buses have been such a hit that you can't get propane buses right now. They're out to 2025. So we are purchasing 8 new, but we have purchased and are purchasing 8 new buses currently, of which all of them are diesel, simply because the propane buses aren't available. And honestly, we have about maxed out the current fueling station with the 8 buses. We don't have a lot more capacity. Our drivers line up in the morning, and so we don't want to slow that process down. Just a quick picture, transportation center on the front of it. This is the outline of it. And this kind of gives you an idea of how it was configured once the additional land was purchased and such. It's worked out very well. I know originally when it was laid out, our drivers were a little bit wary of it being too tight, but we've not had any problems, and I think almost unanimously everybody really likes it. It was a big improvement for our drivers.
If I can get a bus out of there, anybody can. Let's just
right.
put it like that.
This is a propane fueling station. This is off of Bush Street, and that entrance is off of that. So you come in, use these. There's 2,000-gallon propane tanks there. They fill up there. Shipping and receiving and grounds building. That's the old transportation center. That's the one that had the kind of yellowish look to it, and it's about 2/3 of the way sided now and is looking better most every day when we can get everybody here to work on it. But that's actually going to supply the district 17,000 square foot of nothing more than of warehouse space. So that's an area where we can keep paper towels, copy paper, anything needed for the school supplies that we can buy in bulk quantities. The district was never able to take advantage of bulk purchasing because we had no place to store stuff. So we had the opportunity, the board members that were part of the planning sessions originally, this was going to be torn down. And once we got into it and started figuring out how much it was going to cost to replace that square footage that we already had, we decided let's just renovate it and do the inside work ourselves and move forward with it that way. We've done that. I think the project, I'm not going to say the project had an overrun on it, but it's still probably about 50% of what the cost of that same 17,000 square foot of warehouse space would be, and it's the perfect location. So we took advantage of that. That has the new fueling station in it. That's the new fueling station that we put in. All of our buses come to the high school, middle school anyway. So this is and this was already in place. So instead of needing to get all the EPA permits and everything, we quickly kind of changed that around, decided to keep it, put up a canopy, made it our little fueling station, and that as well has worked out very well. In the shipping, receiving, and grounds building, it also has a driver's convenience area, a very small room that has a restroom in it. It's warm, so when you're out fueling your bus up and it's 0 out, you have a place to get inside to warm up. Has a refrigerator for soft drinks and things like that. Our district groundskeeper, his office and work area is out of there, centrally located to all the ball fields, and he works out of there. And we had a need for track and field storage for all of the pits, the hurdles, those types of things. We took one of the bays and actually gave that to the track and field coaches, and so that's their storage area now. As opposed to building something different, we were able to utilize the existing building. Kind of gives you a bird's eye view of what it looks like. We did replace the entire roof on this facility. Once we got into the renovation on it, we found that the roof was not salvageable. We thought it would be, but it ended up not being. Our maintenance facility, this is the old American Legion on Buckley Street. 14,500 square foot of additional storage area in there as well. Most of that is used for the storage of snow plows and maintenance items, maintenance equipment. It has a welding room, a vehicle lift. What's installed in it has an office area for our four maintenance gentlemen, has this technology storage and equipment room. And we've used this as, for those of you that trying to picture where this is at. Obviously, the outside's not what I would love to see it as. That's something that we would like to take care of in the next couple of years and make it. The roof on it's great. It's just the appearance of it is not great yet. So we'll get there. This is the OBI training center. This is where we train our bus drivers. You can, from an aerial view, all of these little black dots, these are all cones that buses have to park in. This would be where they would park. They would have to back between this area. Kind of an unforeseen advantage. Once we had this large parking area behind the Legion, what are we going to do with it? We had talked about a number of things, and I don't know, somehow our transportation director, he just kind of gobbled it up and he said this would be a perfect place for our OBI training. We're utilizing it and it works out super. There's all kinds of room back there, and they can actually train 2 or 3 drivers at a time. So that's worked out very well for us as well. Natatorium and Wrestling Complex, I just wanted to bring you up to date a little bit as we're getting ready to eventually tie the the quote unquote old part of the building to the new building, I wanted to let you know some of the things that we've completed and some of the things that we have on the horizon to complete. We've put new entrance doors in. Obviously, when you tore half of when you tore the gymnasium off, that opened up the whole one side of the natatorium. So there's a new entrance put on the west side of the natatorium, so you can enter either on the west side or the east side now. We've put in a new fire and security system. That had to be upgraded per state code because of the renovations that were taking place. The temporary connector, as I spoke to earlier, we've done a lot of original pool leak detection. We actually found, after many years, we finally figured out where it was leaking in the pool. There's a bulkhead in the pool. It's kind of hard to explain. There's a bulkhead which is made of aluminum, and the water flows through it. And this is a warm-up area, and this is the big pool. Well, in that area, there were actually some things that were never actually completed from the beginning construction, and we found holes in the bottom of the pool, and they were only half-inch holes, but with that much water and that much pressure, we were losing thousands of gallons of water a week out of the pool. Never could figure it out. We finally figured it out. I am happy to report, in checking with our custodial staff over there, we're not losing any water that is more than just your normal usage of evaporation. So,
And that's a first since construction.
yeah, that's a first for a long time. Yes.
Did the original contractor pay for that?
No, there was very little cost, actually, Ms. Laird, because it was simply getting a product and filling the holes in. That's all we did. There was, other than the labor cost and the grief of trying to find it, there was very little cost involved with that. So it was taken care of, though. We did replace some restroom partitions. And we replaced the filtering pumps, which may not seem like a whole lot, but those filtering pumps are about 750 pounds a piece and probably are upwards of about 28 to 30 inches in diameter. They're huge pumps that filter all of the water through the system. The upcoming enhancements, again, just to be consistent throughout the district, we're installing the same keying system on all the doors there. We're going to add the access control to that. So the pool area, instead of having a key that we have to hand out to get into the pool area, that'll be done through a fob, as well as the wrestling area will also have that same fob system in it. We'll have a consistent security system. The security cameras will be tied into the rest of the district security system. We're actually working on the top 3 right now as I speak. The resurfacing of the pool floor. The pool floor is close to 20 years old now, a little bit older than 20. There's, I guess I would call it, it's called Diamond Bright, but it's a sandy type porous system that's
Almost
put
like concrete product.
yeah, like a concrete product almost. Well, its life expectancy is over. So this upcoming summer, we will drain the pool, have a company coming in that specializes in this, and they'll resurface the entire pool floor. And that will also, where we've patched the leaks, that will also go over top of that. So it'll take care of. We actually ordered new pool lighting, completely new LED pool lighting. The original lighting was at the point, or is at the point, where we can't find, or it's almost cost prohibitive to get the parts needed to repair lights as they go bad. So we've come up with some ways of getting around that, but unfortunately it's not the most sightly when you come in and you see a little bit different shades of lighting in there. So we're replacing all of the lighting. It's going to have a really neat look to it. And that'll be LED. And honestly, that probably will pay for itself over the course of 10 to 15 years because of LED lighting being so much cheaper than what we were utilizing before. On the horizon, things that we aren't doing currently, however, trying to work into some type of a budget plan, would be the Desert Air replacement. Desert Air, that's the entire HVAC system for the pool. Very sophisticated, has a lot to do with humidity, temperature, air movement. So when you're swimming, when you get out of the pool, you don't feel breeze moving, but you have to have enough air moving to get rid of the chloramides that are building on the top of the pool. So that's very sophisticated. That's nearing its life expectancy, a rather large investment for the district to replace that. And then the chemical room, I would very much like to add some kind of cementitious product area where we can store the barrels of chlorine and other pool chemicals. That has been stored in the pool area, the mechanical room of the pool area, and it makes that room look like it's 150 years old. Everything's rusted because the chloramides are in there. No matter how tightly you seal things, those escape, and it's just brutal on everything. So we really need to get the chemicals out. I've actually moved them over to the shipping and receiving building, but it's very inconvenient to have to get a forklift, bring them back around and get them there. So if we can just get them outside where they're being utilized would be a good investment for the district.
Tom, was that part of the problem with the lights too, that corrosive atmosphere?
Yeah. Yeah, it's terribly corrosive. Part of the filtering pumps as well. It's so corrosive in there because we're storing so many chemicals inside. Not anything illegal. It's perfectly legal to do that. It's just extremely corrosive is what I would say.
Tom, as far as handling the capital expenditures for those things as they come, I do know that we have funds that are set aside from the regular real estate collection of the building constructions, middle school, and so on. Is the natatorium excluded from those dollars?
Yes, it is. We cannot use the 034 account. The 034 account can only be used in our new facilities, including the middle school. It can only be used there. It can't be used for any non-educational new facility that we own. So therefore, the natatorium, the transportation center, shipping and receiving, district office, we can't use 034 funds. That has to be funded through the permanent improvement 003 account. I did want to touch briefly on the safety, things we've done to increase safety throughout the district. As I said earlier, we've moved to consistent security systems that can be viewed by our local law enforcement, consistent keying system, consistent access control system, and the implementation of electric vehicles. Now you're going to say, well, electric vehicles, what electric vehicles? Last year, we made the move we looked at building some buildings at each elementary building to put our gas lawnmowers in because you're not allowed to have gas vehicles or utility vehicles or lawnmowers inside your building without draining the gas out of the fuel tanks every time. Not very practical. No one does it. We would get written up every time the fire department would inspect our buildings. So we made the decision last year to go to electric lawnmowers, electric snow blowers, and
String trimmers too?
Tree trimmers, bush trimmers, everything's electric now. We've removed all of the gasoline items from our custodial staffs. Everything's electric. Snow blowers have worked great because we haven't had snow. So those are very successful. Yeah, yeah, I know. Friday, but they did use the electric mowers last year, and it was one of those things, it's a change, and people don't like change, especially custodians that have been here for years, and you give them an electric lawnmower, they just kind of looked at me like I had 5 years, and I said, let's just try it and see. And they actually like them. They don't have to worry about starting them. Every year when it came time for snow, if you're like me, I go out and pull 100 times on the snowblower and it never starts. And then we'd have to go out and try to get it. Well, this way you just pop a battery in, you're ready to go. Same way with the lawnmower. So that's been very effective. And I'm looking forward to see how it goes when we actually do have snow and have to utilize them. Upcoming safety enhancements district-wide. I talked about the communication upgrade. You can't we have the radios ordered, but they have been ordered for over a year now. We actually just got an update last Friday where they're pushed back now until May before we may get them. I'm not sure we're going to get them in May, but we do have that upgrade in place. The PO's written, it's funded through the safety grant, and we hopefully will get those and get them out to out to our buildings as soon as we get those. Camera upgrades, we've done some additional cameras and upgraded some cameras already in the elementary level. There was a couple areas that didn't have real good coverage that our principals asked if we could get some better coverage for. We're in the process of upgrading those cameras and adding additional cameras. And then at the district office, we will soon be moving to, when I say soon, hopefully in the next 6 months, when we finalize the project, we'll be looking at the same type of access control that we have in all of our buildings. So fobs to get in, we'll actually have a buzz-in system. The doors won't be open all of the time, and a camera out there to see who's coming in and those types of things. That we're hoping to get funded through a Bureau of Workers' Comp, or at least partially funded through a Bureau of Workers' Compensation grant. I know Ms. Parkhurst is working on that and working with her on that. So that was kind of exciting. That was kind of an afterthought. This grant came along after we kind of committed to it. So that's been very nice as well. Questions? That ends my presentation. Any questions I could answer? Concerns, certainly?
I was sitting here, Tom, I thought about the pool scoreboard. Maybe that's something else. We got some news today, didn't we?
Yes. At the pool, the scoreboard, timing system, that's all connected. The scoreboard, the timing system, the sensors on the pads where they jump off of, that's all connected. Mr. Burnt's been working with Daktronics to put together some type of a budget for replacement of that system. They said the system is nearly at its end of its life cycle as well. And so there was what do I want to say, a kind of a ballpark figure given to us with some things you can do to add on, take off, subtract, a kind of a buffet of things to choose from. So we really, I got that on the agenda for tomorrow's meeting to talk about.
Came in this afternoon. Yeah.
Yep. So we'll be looking at doing that as well, but those are also a large dollar.
Didn't Chad say our current scoreboard isn't even supportable? I mean, if
Right.
something goes south, we're just out.
Yep. Because it's so highly technological, it's just like all technology, something that age is 20 years old. So you can imagine technologically how far they've come with the new ones. We can't even get parts to replace things on it any longer. So.
You
about
keep
the-
saying the natatorium, I'm sorry, it's 20 years old, and that just keeps blowing my mind because I still view that as a new building.
Yeah, it's hard to believe the elementary buildings have been open for 3 years already too.
Yes.
I mean, it's amazing to me because to drive and see the building's already 3 years old. So, we gave a tour this Saturday of the high school. It's already a year old. We were talking about things and we opened it a year ago. So.
The Fremont Area Foundation,
Yes.
are they looking at new structures? Does their fundraising cover maintenance? What's their directive and kind of what their mission looks like now?
If you don't mind, Ms. Laird, I'm going to defer that to Mr.
and
Detweiler.
I've been kind of working with them on that. They're sort of on a readjustment period. I think I could speak for them. They're sort of like, what's next? So that I think all those things are on the table. I think they're very conscious of the costs that we incur to try to maintain some of these things, but they're also looking for, okay, what's next? Now, I know there may be some pillars at the stadium and some other things that have just been talked about, but I don't think I could say, they couldn't either, really, that, okay, here's next. But I do think they're actively having those conversations. I mean, I think we've met with Brad Wolfslego twice now in my office, even to talk about, okay, what are your needs? What's going on? So I think as an organization, they really are just trying to say, okay, what's our next thing? It's good. Tom, the memorial out here, could you speak to that just for a second?
Yes. If you recall, one of the things that was very near and dear to a lot of the community members is how we commemorated the old buildings. Mr. Detweiler and I met with the architectural firm last week. We were able to pull everything out that we have, measure everything, give it back to the architects, all the dimensions, from every plaque from the building to some masonry, sandstone arches, things of that nature, gave it back to the architects. Mr. Detweiler and I came up with, or Mr. Detweiler, I guess I should say, actually came up with some ideas how we may want to incorporate the plaques to some type of a memory wall where we can put those on and light it so you can see all the different building plaques, and then potentially be able to use some of the products, the sandstone products also to create something. We're anxiously awaiting something coming back to us so we can take a look at it and then collaborate with with TDA to try to get something in place next or this upcoming spring, summer work.
So that would be at each individual building or a centralized location?
Thinking right here at the walk between the middle school and high school, about halfway over, just put an arched wall and then have all those dedication plaques on the wall. So that's kind of, we think that's where they're headed. So we could have, and working with Lyle, he said, we'll come up with some ideas, maybe some, how about this, how about that, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. So we're kind of turning them loose. They're good at that. So we'll see what they come up with.
Nice.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks, Tom.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Moving on, hearing of the public. No one is here, so I think we can safely skip that one. On to the superintendent's report.
All right. As you can see, not only is Tom just a good guy to work with, but he's forgotten more than most people know about building facilities and maintenance. You know, I think good leaders know to surround themselves with people that are better than them, and that's obviously the case here. Tom, thank you for all you do for Fremont City Schools. We wouldn't be where we are without him. It's just not possible. He often says to his people, we are the support staff. We support teachers in education. That's our job here, to make sure that we can do the education of children by taking care of our facilities. And I know that's his mission and his heart. So he's a fabulous asset to Fremont City Schools. PD Day, we got PD coming up. I sent you, if you haven't had a chance to look, hats off to Denise and her team for setting out, I think, a world-class PD Day on Wednesday. There must be 50 things that are going on. Groups doing this and that. There's trainings, there's updates, there's dyslexia training and PBIS training, and we're training the bus drivers. I think I may have mentioned this to you. We got a special team coming in that just does bus safety for intruders. That's starting on Wednesday, so pretty excited about that day. I encourage you to check that out. State funding is kind of blowing up. I was at a meeting with the ESC in Tiffin last Friday, and some of these things, I know Ms. Laird will probably see it coming on some of your stuff, but the couple new versions of the finance, and I don't know if Megan, we've been lamenting today. It's like, oh my gosh, what in the world? There's a couple plans that are just a little scary for schools, but you know, we're in the process. You know, it's this politics. Looks like making sausage, right? You like the sausage, but you don't want to watch the process. Politics is the same way, right? It's messy, really messy. And so we're in that worry phase of state funding. We'll hopefully can make it through that. And then just coming up is on the 22nd of March is our Safety Day. And it reached out today to the Ohio Safe Schools Center. Our regional director for that is coming that day to talk about the governor's initiatives on school safety and what they're doing. Pretty excited about that. As I mentioned before, we have all our first responders coming that day, and you're certainly welcome to come too. So looking forward to that. That's the 22nd. I think that's all I have as far as my update. Anybody have anything for me? Questions on that? All right.
I don't think so.
We have a pretty short agenda. Let's roll, I guess,
All
right? All right. If I may, facilities and operations, we have the second reading now of those 6 policies for you this evening.
Okay. Can I get a motion to approve items 1 through 6, please?
So moved.
Motion by Ms. Laird. Could I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mrs. Espiritu. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Ms. Laird?
Yes.
Mrs. Spiritu?
Yes.
Mrs. Bloom?
Yes.
Ms. Lewis?
Yes.
Mr. Price?
Yes, motion's approved.
Thank you very much. Moving on, starting with item 7, we have resignation of a bus driver for Lawrence Harkness. Item 8, appointments, Timothy Buchek and James Haas. I want to point out James Haas, you may have been familiar about a month ago, I asked you, kind of let you know I was going to try to add a little bit of tech time because we're finding with now 1-to-1, we'll be 6 through 12 1-to-1 this spring or fall, I guess. Yeah. So just the sheer number of devices and the work that's taking is just really demanded a little attention on the tech side. So James Haas will be an addition to our staff in that sense. Item 9, Rebecca Dicker for Folk Center Intervention Tutor, Jennifer Ziegler-Long for Assistant Varsity Track for those supplemental contracts. Continuing on the next page, supplemental duty positions, we have Matthew Culbertson, Assistant Varsity Tennis Coach for the boys. And those are our personnel motions this evening.
Okay. Can I get a motion to approve items 7 through 10, please?
So moved.
Motion by Ms. Lewis. Could I have a second?
Okay.
Second by Mrs. Bloom. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Ms. Lewis,
Yes.
Mrs. Bloom,
Yes.
Mrs. Spiritu,
Yes.
Ms. Laird,
Yes.
Mr. Price.
Yes, motion's approved. All right, on to report of the treasurer.
So normally I try not to talk too much, but I do have a couple things tonight to report on. Mr. Detweiler touched a little bit about some fun stuff with school funding. There is a very interesting House bill that is House Bill 1 that is getting a lot of traction in the school finance world. It's a little concerning for a lot of us. What the current proposal is significantly changing how property tax and income tax is handled. And it looks like a reduction for taxpayers. And of course, if you're reducing something for taxpayers, you have to reduce where that money would normally go. And unfortunately, it looks like they are looking to reduce it from local governments and public school districts. So it's something we are all there's a lot of unknown as to how it would work. And I'll be sending out, I think we just found out about it last week. A lot of the professional organizations have been sending out some very rough draft communication. There's still a lot of questions how different other current laws would affect this. So as soon as we get more communication, we'll make sure to send it out. But that is just one of the very fun things that is coming through right now is this House Bill 1. The auditor's state is developing a better FAQ for the levy cost separations that is currently being very well monitored across the state of Ohio. So we're looking to get that communication soon. They're hopefully give districts better guidelines as to what we can and can't do, since they've now been cracking down on that. So that's another big thing. And then, of course, the Nexus pipeline is looking like it's going to be settled. Lorain County does have time to file an appeal, but hopefully that is going to stick. It has currently been dismissed by the state of Ohio. They've come out with some very broad estimates as to what different entities would look to bring in from this settlement. And currently we're looking at an additional $375,000 in revenue that would be increased with this settlement. So that is one positive for us.
You know, it seems like with the funding and the auditor's office with the levy thing, do they always want to put the cart before the horse? You know, I mean, with the funding thing, okay, they're going to change how property taxes or local taxes could be done, but what about other laws that are affecting that? Mm-hmm. Does anybody look at that first? Is it constitutional? Can we do this without breaking any other laws? Or the same with the auditor of state? Well, we're going to crack down on how levy committees can help with a levy that directly benefits a school, but the school district can't do anything about it as far as communication goes. Oh, and then later on, we'll give you some guidelines as to what you can and cannot do. Come on. A little common sense would go a long way with a lot of these things. It's always, oh, let's do this. And then, well, we'll figure it out as we go along.
See, for us, it's really impacted us, to your point, Mr. Price, because we've really been working on our renewal here for the last 6 months, 8 months. Well, there's been fear over that whole world for a year without any real guidance. So it's really made it very difficult, especially for us, since we had that timing that, we've got this renewal to do, but we really didn't have any hard guidance on what we were allowed to do. So it's very, very tough.
Which is crazy because, I mean, if they were in that same situation, they wouldn't want that.
Right.
I mean, it just seems like simple things. I mean, just, even as an employer or something, you don't just say, oh, yeah, by the way, I'm going to ding you for this, Sarah. And then I'll tell you why later on.
Right.
You know?
How you can avoid it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or, hey, if you don't do this, then there won't be a problem, you know?
Yeah, you got it.
I will say, though, that the senator that is introducing House Bill 1 did say that the school districts that were negatively affected with the funding will be able to go out for levies to make up for that for their local taxes.
Oh, gee, thank you.
Bless their hearts.
Well, yeah. Once again, the low-hanging fruit gets to go after, oh, yeah, by the way, community members, we need more money because the state is eliminating some funding.
Yeah. So
Thanks, Columbus.
we're not sure how that would affect us locally, but that was a little bit of a bitter pill I did not like in there.
I'm going to take a little risk on a comment here. Folks, it really comes down to we are the government. We are the government. It's of the people, by the people, for the people. We select who is placed in those positions and can make those decisions. And I think we're responsible in two ways. We need to know who has presented themselves as an option and what qualifications do they bring. I think professional background is a very meaningful part of that. You know, what does the role entail? I like to think that all of us have something to do with either the education piece or the finance piece, the kids' social life, the impact on that. You know, we have some of that. When you think about the legislative body, its sole responsibility is crafting law. So when we take a look, in my opinion, at its current makeup as a whole and the professional background that has changed, I'm not surprised that they're not looking at law before they make law. You know, traditionally, some years ago, a larger percentage of that body had a lawmaking background, you know, either law enforcement, judicial, something along those lines.
Attorneys, yeah.
Yes, you know, all of that. They brought a larger percentage of that background. And while I love the diversity of professional backgrounds, I think as we make our choices, we should think about that. And the second part, where I think we have responsibilities, we need to step up and offer ourselves as a choice. I mean, how many people are taking that on? You know, if we're going to be frustrated with our government, and maybe what's not available. Take a look at what our personal skill sets are and offer ourselves up as an option. Take our turn and, you know, our tour of duty, so to speak. So
Well, you
For
got
what
my
that's
vote,
worth.
Chantel.
you know, and I will say this, at the state level of the school board, our area representative primarily promotes homeschooling. Put together a foundation primarily for that, and that's who we elected. And I think the individual ran unopposed. So, I mean, there's both sides of the responsibility on that. Somebody offered themselves up as an option. Anyway, that's all I have to say on it. Thank you.
If I may, to your point, we've been reading a lot this week about the state board and that legislation to move them into the governor's office. And also this thing about finance and how it said boards of education really are a fourth branch of government, designed totally to be freestanding and answering to their local people. And this works, right? Because you people have to go on the street every day and look people in the eye. And I think the same thing can be done in Columbus with our Board of Education, but it needs a little help. Yeah. The fourth branch of government. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Okay. We're good.
Sorry to interrupt, Matt.
Sorry, yeah.
Oh, darn it.
You
Sorry,
brought it
not
up.
sorry.
You brought it
Had
up.
the spotlight for a
You
second.
know that was going to happen.
Okay, so that's all I have tonight to report on, but we want to move on with the recommendation.
Okay.
Tonight we have the January financials, which we were so excited that we are moving in the right direction financially. We're keeping our expenses down and really trying to make our revenue work for us in areas with interest available to us right now. And some of those projects that Mr. Anway talked about, we've actually been using grant funds to do a lot. So we've been able to keep a lot of those expenses out of the general fund. So that's just another point towards being able, between all of the directors, finding those different opportunities so that we're keeping this general fund in a healthier spot. And keeping the expenses down is always nice too. But pretty much, I mean, we're running about where we should be. So January financials are looking pretty good. Any questions on those?
Okay. Can I get a motion to approve item 11, please?
So moved.
Motion by Ms. Laird. I have a second.
Second.
Second by Mrs. Bloom.
Yeah.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Ms. Laird?
Yes.
Mrs. Bloom?
Yes.
Mrs. Speartoo?
Yes.
Mrs. Lewis?
Yes.
Mr. Price?
Yes, motion's approved.
Item 12 for tonight, that is an appropriation for our athletics contracted services. This is specific to our arbiter, is a company we use to pay our refs and officials out of. They had a rate increase this year that got communicated to us, during the middle of our year. So we weren't quite sure how that was going to change. And it also depends how many games we're playing and that kind of stuff. So we do have to have an increase to that appropriation.
Can I get a motion to approve item 12, please?
So moved.
Motion by Ms. Lewis. Could I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mrs. Bloom. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Ms. Lewis?
Yes.
Mrs. Bloom?
Yes.
Mrs. Speartoo?
Yes.
Ms. Laird?
Yes.
Mr. Price?
Yes, motion's approved. All right. Board member communications. Lori.
Well, thank you, Mr. Anway, for your presentation. It was interesting to hear about how the schools and everything, what's going on, and nice to know where everything's going. And it's almost to an end for Megan. So, and I heard the basketball team, girls, doing really good. And the tickets are going to be sold out.
We hope.
So,
It's gonna be a good crowd, I know that.
just hoping they can let's push it through and make it on the next level. So, but other than that,
Anything else?
I would like to thank Mr. Anway for his presentation. It was very informative, and I mean, just keeping our new buildings. I mean, we have all the new schools. Just thank the staff too for helping to keep the buildings up to date and running. And I mean, it's a lot of work with everything that you presented. It's like, wow. And thank the directors for finding grants to help pay for that stuff to keep everything running.
Chantal?
Again, thank you, Mr. Anway. I think your position is so underestimated of everything that's involved. I mean, you have to know how to build it, how to fix it, how to staff it, how to maintain it. I mean, those are 4 jobs wrapped into one, really, and particularly during the time of the construction. You maintained all of those things in very old buildings at the same time of taking on this mammoth construction. It's just unheard of, and very few people besides yourself have done it. So thank you so very much.
Sarah?
Thank you, Mr. Anway, for your presentation. What I hope the public hears is what I heard: 3 things. Excuse me. Fiscal responsibility. We're finding grants. We're planning ahead to budget for things. The second, safety and security. If that's not the top of everybody's list, it sure should be. And it is evident that that's on the top of, or a priority of, of yours as well. And then the third thing is good care and upkeep. You take pride in the buildings and all of the goings on with the buildings to make sure that everything's running appropriately. And that's how buildings last. So we're not doing another building construction project for years and years, to come. So I hope the community hears that. I know I certainly did, and I learned a lot tonight. So thank you so much. Congrats to all the various district sports qualifiers. I think every winter sport has somebody qualifying in some at some district level. The Lady Giants basketball team, they won a very well contended and well attended basketball game over the weekend. I was glad that I was able to be there and to see all the purple and white on one side of the gym, we were represented. Just kind of wanted to give a shout out to Coach Vela. Like I said, it was a contentious game at some level. The girls met some opposition, not just in the talent of the other team, but some other things on the court, where there was opportunity for Coach Vela to, I don't know, maybe lose character, and he didn't. I mean, he just leads with such grace and like level-headedness, and it translates so well to those girls. And they played the way that he coached them. So just wanted to give him a shout out. That was very, very evident during the course of the game. A few weeks ago, the Fremont Middle School and Fremont Ross orchestras went to the OMEA contest over in Findlay. I am not sure of the rating of the high school orchestra, but I am the proud mom of a middle school orchestra player, and they earned a 1 rating, a superior rating. For many of those students, that's their first time at a competition, and they were just pumped. And thank you to Findlay for hosting the event. Really nice to see. So in every opportunity we have to be giant and be present and be great, let's do it.
I'll reiterate, Tom, thank you for the presentation, for the update on where we're at with the new buildings, where everything is looking at now for the middle school and all the other buildings we have. I think this is another area where this works well because we have a reference point now for anybody. If someone calls down to the district office, John can say, hey, go to this board meeting. Tom presented on this. You can see it exactly, how it is, instead of just some written board minutes somewhere that nobody knows. So great way to present it for anybody to understand and maybe answer a question that they might have. So thank you very much for that. Denise and John, for the PD coming up on Wednesday, for all those different options. I know it used to be that it was pretty low level as to what you could choose from as a staff member, maybe for that PD. So I know as the husband of a teacher, she appreciates that, having some choices. So I'm sure everybody else does. And then the safety day coming up, like everything else, like Sarah alluded to with safety for our kids in our buildings, what a great way to have for our staff to be able to go through that and have the first responders and the people that you have lined up to accommodate and help out with that. I think it's just great for everybody that's going to be involved. That's an important thing. So, congratulations to the ladies basketball team. I was there with Sarah. I have to say, I agree. There were some times where they could have lost their temper a little bit, whether it was calls maybe or whatever else it was. And plus it was a tight game the whole time. And you're right. That was one of the first things I thought of. Those girls, they didn't get up. They didn't get fired up at the other team. They just walked away. They would huddle as a team. And you could see that Coach Vela obviously does the same thing. So, I mean, they take it from their leadership. So, congratulations to Coach Vela and the team and everybody involved in that. And good luck tomorrow night. So, I'm glad we were able to, with the help of John and Miss Orvetz at the high school, getting everything around. We're taking the Purple Pit on a road trip to Sandusky for tomorrow night's game. So hopefully we get quite a few students out there and community members and pack that gym, and let's make it more purple and white than whatever color Olmsted Falls is. I have no idea, but it doesn't matter at this point. If we get more tickets, we'll just make it purple and white. So make it better for those girls. Wrestlers made it, some from the weekend for the boys wrestling. I think girls wrestling maybe starts their tournament this weekend.
Right there, a week behind.
So they'll be coming up. Good luck to those that have moved on, or for the girls that are going to be starting their tournament this weekend. So a lot going on right now, all the spring sports and all the spring stuff coming in, the musical coming up in March, towards the end of March. I think tickets are on sale now, correct? I thought I saw.
Yep.
So to everybody out there, get your tickets for Mean Girls now. It'll be good. If it was like the last one, you'll be entertained for that time. So,
Word on the street, there's some pretty mean, sassy girls going to be on that stage.
as long as you're not part of the Mean Girls.
I'm not.
Like you were in the previous
Full disclosure, I'm not going to be a mean girl.
With that, if there's nothing else, can I get a motion for adjournment, please?
Oh, go ahead, Lori.
So moved.
Motion by Mrs. Bloom,
Second.
second by Miss Laird. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Bloom,
Yes.
Ms. Laird,
Yes.
Mrs. Spiritu,
Yes.
Ms. Lewis,
Yes.
Mr. Price.
Yes, motion's approved. Meeting's adjourned.